Tens of thousands of Australian children and teenagers are exhibiting out-of-control violent behaviour due to internet gaming disorder. Their desperate parents are at a loss about where to find help because, according to a group of experts, the syndrome is being downplayed by authorities. Leaders in this field have now signed a joint statement calling on governments to act. One of the signatories is psychiatrist and internet gaming disorder specialist Dr. Kim Lee from CGI Clinic in Adelaide. Dr. Lee, welcome. Thank you for your time this morning. Can we begin with the definition of internet gaming disorder? What is it? How does it manifest?
Well, in 2019, the World Health Organization recognised gaming disorder as a loss of control over your gaming time, where gaming takes over all the other important aspects of your life and you experience negative consequences to the detriment of your level of functioning, not going to school, not going to work, and affecting your relationships.
What sort of age groups are we talking about here that we're seeing in Australia?
Well, I'm seeing in my clinic children in primary school, mainly high school, university students and also adults. So it can affect a wide spectrum of people around Australia.
And what are you hearing from their parents about what they're seeing in terms of the addiction and when they try to take their children away from these devices?
Well, you just need to look at the comments section of that Sydney Morning Herald article from Friday, and parents are really struggling. They're losing that battle at home with their children, getting them off their screens, going to bed, going to dinner, and when they're having to set limits on their child's gaming time, their child can retaliate with aggression and sometimes violence.
That was a really incredibly powerful piece in the Sydney Morning Herald, and obviously it was coming from the signatories, this joint statement, that you want to see more action, you want to see governments and health authorities take this more seriously. What do we need to see, do you feel?
Well, the leaders of Australia did actually meet in 2018 to look at whether we should actually ban the gambling aspects of video games, and that was led by Green Senator Jordan Steele John, and unfortunately that was around the time when the World Health Organization was still in the stages of creating the draft gaming disorder proposal. So unfortunately Australia did not recognise that, like the countries in Europe where they're banning those gambling aspects. A year later the World Health Organization came out with the gaming disorder diagnosis. So I think we need to have another re-look, a rethink. We're not asking, as specialists in this area, a multidisciplinary group of people, for any kind of money. We're just saying, look, listen to the parents, pay your teachers better, because if you pay teachers better in the public system, they can actually address some of those homework problems, children falling asleep in class, pick up on those children who are vulnerable, who are dependent, disconnected and disengaged because of these games, and also fix Medicare. If you pay your GPs well enough and give them enough time to speak to the children, understand that these children are refusing to go to school, violent to their parents, and give them that extra 30 seconds to ask them, so what's happening? What's happening at home? What games are you playing? And so there are some broken systems there. Some schools in Victoria and WA, for example, in the public system have actually banned smartphones in schools, and that's not Australia-wide yet. That's a very easy fix. A lot of parents are complaining about the Bring Your Own Device program. For a lot of kids, they can benefit from the advanced technologies that come with these laptops, but for those children who don't know how to read or write, they're falling behind, because if you can't read or write, you play video games in class.
What about, obviously that's in class, but what about during lockdown, where we just saw children and teenagers in front of devices because that's the way they were learning? Did you see an increase in gambling or gaming disorder during that time?
A huge spike.
Right.
So unfortunately that timing where the Senate met around and discussed these gambling aspects, which the research shows are psychologically very, very similar to gambling on the poker machines. Unfortunately that was before the pandemic. When the pandemic came around, everyone was locked up at home, everyone was doing Zoom meetings, Zoom classrooms. It was like throwing petrol on the fire. It just escalated and compounded these problems where children lost their footy clubs, their netball clubs. They weren't able to meet and connect. They met and connect online. And for some of those kids who might have coexisting mental health problems, they struggled that little bit more to go back to school.
Dr. Lee, you mentioned a couple of times the gambling aspects of games. Can you explain that a bit more? Because I think there might be a lot of viewers and a lot of parents who don't see these games as having gambling elements in them.
Yeah. So the video game designers have moved to a model where it's a free to play. You can download it for free without even asking your parents. And so that gets kids at a younger level into video games. And they have what's called the 3 H's: hook, habit and hobby. You hook children in with rewards, make it a habit, get them to log in every day, and then hopefully you've got a child who's playing that game for months on end every day, and they're used to playing the game, and then when the offer comes to spend some money, they're more likely to spend money. So in my clinic, I'm seeing the 5 H's: hook, habit, hobby, hazard and harm, where the games get to a level for a small percentage of kids where it's causing a hazard to their health, and then for some kids, harm to their health.
Right, it's very concerning, and hopefully authorities can take it more seriously and parents are more on the lookout for these signs and symptoms. Dr. Lee, we really do appreciate your time this morning. Thank you for the conversation.
Thank you, Lockie.